All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say, Call Halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash. All right. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations and blessings and love to the hopefully elect, you brothers out there preaching the truth in sincerity. All right. And I just wanted to see, how can I say? I just wanted to, Lord's will, edify, just kind of land back on the brother Manata Zagba's video about tips for younger brothers and sisters for doing the Passover, the Pesach, and just kind of edify. There was a few things the brother was like, going in on, and if you're not sure, it's better to be safe than sorry. So that's definitely, I agree. That's definitely how it should be, because you never know with Esau. He's tainted all type of things. But like the brother also brought out the scriptures, and I'll bring it out again too. Okay. We are rehearsing the righteous acts. Judges 5 and 11, they that are delivered from the noise of the archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh, even the righteous acts towards the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down into the gates. So like the brother brought up, and like we know, as we become more seasoned in this truth, we are rehearsing the righteous acts of the Most High. So when we keep the Passover, we do it to the best of our ability. There are certain things we cannot do. We cannot take the lamb and reserve it, because you're supposed to take it a couple of days before the feast and reserve it for a number of days, and then kill it, and then roast the whole thing, leaving its entrails inside of it, and then there's certain things we can't do. I think it has to be a lamb without blemish or some, if I'm not mistaken, of the first year. So we are rehearsing the righteous acts, but it's better to be safe than sorry, and then this devil Esau, of course, through his different inventions and his different tamperings with things, how things are supposed to be, he has contaminated certain things. So you have to be careful, like the brother said. So one of the things he mentioned, which I see the apostles do as well, from one of the Passovers I saw, I think it was a 2015 Passover, they typically do like corn chips or corn tostadas or something of that nature, which is completely fine. That is a type of flatbread, that you can use. But most brothers typically stray away from flour due to there being some flours that come with a rising agent built into it. And typically that type of flour is self-rising flour. Self-rising flour definitely has sodium bicarbonate in it. Let me just flour. Just look that up real quick. Okay, you can just see right here. See, I'm gonna just zoom in it. So, where's my? If I can get this to look like it's all bright, don't look like it's gonna read it. So like it, I don't know if I'm gonna get it to. It's kind of acting stupid. I'm just gonna read it. So right here it says, self-rising flour is flour with the baking powder and a bit of salt already added. It's a staple in many southern recipes. I'm gonna also get this one. What's the difference between self-rising flour and all-purpose flour? It says it is not recommended to substitute self-rising flour for other types of flour since a leavening agent has been added. So as you can see, according to this, the leavening agent has been added into self-rising flour, which is why you cannot substitute other flours in a recipe that calls for self-rising flour. You have to use self-rising because it has the leavening agent built into it so that it can rise. That's what leavening agents do. It causes the dough to rise. And it says right here, if you do not have self-rising flour and the recipe calls for it, you can make your own by combining 1 cup of all-purpose flour with 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So it requires that you add baking powder to it in order for it to be self-rising. And baking powder is counted as a form of leavening. I'm gonna just get. I had already looked up the different types of leavening. Okay. Types of leavening agents. So when you look up types of leavening agents, which I don't know why. Yeah, I think my screen's a little too bright. Let me try to lower that brightness. See if I can get it to show up. Alright. See, will it read it now? Yeah, okay. So that's a little better. So let me get close to it. So as you can see right here, types of leavening agent. This might be backwards. Chemical, baking powder. Yeah, it looks backwards to me. Salakia if it's backwards. But it says chemicals are baking powder, and biochemical is yeast. And baking powder is sodium bicarbonate, which I think I just used up all of my baking soda. But I believe baking soda is also sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate, ammonium bicarbonate, and it leavens by releasing carbon dioxide gas. So that's how you get the rising effect. And then biological, which we all know is yeast, which is the typical form of leavening. All right. And here's some baking powder. I had took it out a little early, and I brought it back in the other day to make some waffles. But I'm gonna take it out before the Passover comes in tonight. Which the Passover tonight, Tuesday, March the 19th, comes in tonight, okay, at evening, and you're supposed to eat the Passover lamb with bitter herbs, which is I'm using horseradish root, and you can use bottled horseradish if you can get it, or if you can't get that, or if it's a short notice and you can't get it, use some other type of bitter herb. Raw onion may help, may be okay to use. Something that's bitter, something bitter. Anyway, this is baking powder, and as you can see, you may be able to see in the ingredients here. I can try to. Let me stand up again. Let's see. So, Salakia. So it says, it's a little shiny. So, ingredients: corn starch, sodium bicarbonate, and I'll read that last one. It's monocalcium phosphate. So anyway, this is a leavening agent, which it's a chemical. It's not technically yeast, but it's a leavening agent. So to be safe, brothers take it out of their houses, and we don't use things or eat things that have this leavening agent in it, which is baking powder. All right, and you may want to avoid baking soda as well. And we know cakes use baking soda to rise, so no cakes. Salaki, it looks like I'm starting up a video here. The brother Yawan accidentally tapped on it, but so yeah, it's best to avoid those things. But getting into the reason I'm here doing this lesson is because wheat in itself is not evil, like the brother said, he was talking about Ezekiel bread, which Ezekiel bread is a bread that it's bread, so it contains yeast. But the ingredients are not evil. It's just the yeast that you should not partake in under penalty of being cut off from your nation during this time of the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So this is just plain old wheat flour. Right here it says contains wheat. This doesn't have any additional ingredients. It's just pure wheat, because we know that Esau has contaminated everything, So it's about having a clear conscience towards the Most High. And as far as this says on this bag, it says pure wheat. It's just straight up wheat. And at the top, it has an explanation because it doesn't show your normal type of ingredient list because it's a one ingredient item. So at the top it says this food ingredient is derived from a raw agricultural product and must be thoroughly cooked before consuming to control for pathogens. So this is a one ingredient type of deal right here. It's just straight up flour. It's high gluten flour for typically used for bread making, and I use it to make my flatbread. I'm gonna make my own flatbread throughout this time. And also, so here's high purpose flour. Okay, now high purpose flour has an ingredient list because it has more than just flour in it. They put vitamins, Esau and his madness. But for conscience sake, it does not say that there is any sodium bicarbonate or any leavening agents inside of it if you look at it. So you see here, let me get it in the camera. So there is, I'm going to just hold it there for a second, and then I'm going to read it. So there's bleached wheat flour, niacin, which is a B vitamin, iron, thiamine mononitrate, which is vitamin B1, riboflavin, which is vitamin B2, enzymes, folic acid. Enzymes and folic acid. So I'm not going to be using this, but I'm also not going to take it out of the house because as far as my conscience goes concerning this flour, it doesn't say anything about a leavening agent. So I will not be using it just to be safe, but I'm not going to take it out of the house. It has there's a tear in the side of it and it's leaking flour. So I'm just going to leave it in the house and I won't eat it. Because who knows what those enzymes are, and Esau and his wicked enzyme. But it doesn't say anything about self-rising. So if a brother or sister has nothing but all-purpose flour and they use it, I do not feel as though they will be condemned for using it because it doesn't say anything about a rising agent such as sodium bicarbonate or baking powder. Okay, that's self-rising flour. So I just want to, like I said, chime in on that if brothers have any additional thing to add or any type of corrections that they feel like they need to provide towards me for doing this video. Please feel free. I will receive them. But it was just on my mind, on my spirit to do a video about flour in itself is not wicked. And I'm gonna get a scripture real quick, and then I'm gonna actually make some flatbread. If brothers or sisters have never done it before, just a quick recipe to kind of help you know what to do. So let me get the scripture. All right. See if I can find it. I should be able to go in my history and pull it up. Yeah, so this is going to be Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 39. If it'll load. $39, and we'll scroll down to 26. I'll read verse 25. For the good are the good things created from the beginning, so evil things for sinners. Verse 26. The principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. All these things are for good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. So the wheat in itself is not evil, but Esau contaminates it, and he contaminates many things, like the brothers will also go in on. Be circumspect about certain foods you eat because they contain yeast extract, and it's wicked because they say they get the yeast extract. From what I've studied on it, is for flavor purposes. But yeast is primarily supposed to be used to leaven bread. But they extract yeast and put some element of its flavor components into different foods. So you have to read, like the brother said, you have to scrutinize the things that you eat, the things that you buy. It's even used in some chips as a flavoring. You'll see yeast extract right on the bag, you know. So be very circumspect of what you consume, because just because it's not bread doesn't mean it doesn't have yeast in it. And that's part of all things, things that have been made good for the good, so for the sinners they are turned into evil, you know. So I'm gonna just do a real quick flatbread recipe. So I use this little cup or whatever. I'm gonna just get some flour. See if you can. I'll let you see my bowl now. Okay, so lower this down so you can see what I'm working with here. I don't really have a straight up camera, so I may have to. I'm gonna see how this works for making this video. I'm gonna take a cup of flour. I'm gonna do probably like 2 or 3 of these. Depends on how much dough you want to make. That wasn't even a full one. But, just get some dough. Get some flour to a decent amount for my use. That should be enough. All right, so let me see. Let me pull this back a bit so you can see the bowl. Then if I need to show you something else, I can. So just flour in the bowl. Now what I do is I use this. It's called vegetable ghee, right? And what ghee is a let me show you. Pure vegetable ghee. It says Somalian flavor, which I don't know why. I didn't realize that before. But either way, ghee is just melted butter. It's melted butter that has all of the milk solids have been cooked out of the butter, and it's basically clarified butter. And so it has a high shelf life. It lasts for a long time. Now, this is not made out of butter. This is made out of palm oil. Palm oil gets solid when it gets cool. And so you have to. So it's basically the equivalent of soft butter. You can use soft butter. You can use vegetable shortening if you want to. But this just gives your tortillas a bit of a softer texture, and they stay softer a bit longer. Because when you buy store-bought tortillas, like the brother said, you might mess around and end up with some, and I already washed my hands. You might mess around and end up with some, baking powder inside of it. So if you're going to eat flour tortillas, you should make your own. You should make your own flour tortillas if you're going to eat any. So I'm just going to take some of this and blend it straight with the flour. Also, before I blend that up, I'm going to put a little salt in there with it, just to get that incorporated as well. So, I just put a little something in there, about that much. It doesn't take much. I'll make it a little bit more. Just a tad bit more. I'm about to get some salt, and really, this is not an exact recipe, but I'm just gonna put a little salt in there. Do the salt proportionate to the amount of dough you have. Because if you don't put any salt, it's not going to have any flavor. And so what you do after you put the softened butter or the vegetable shortening or the vegetable ghee if you choose, or the regular ghee, whatever you want to do. You could even use melted butter. But after you put the butter in there, it's like making biscuits if you've ever made them. You're going to take the flour and the ghee and you're going to crunch it all together. Okay? So I'm just about to do that. Lord will I don't mess up my garment. This is my in-house garment anyway. But still. Alright, so yeah, you just, you fluff it all together. So what you're looking for when you do this is, you're looking for the flour to become the consistency of like cornmeal. Okay? It's going to end up looking like cornmeal when you get through. And this, this this ghee has a little yellow tint to it. So it's actually going to turn it yellow. And I'm just going to use this dough later on when we do our Passover. You know, and you don't have to go through all this. Like the brother showed in his video, you can just buy corn tortillas or corn tortillas or corn chips is probably the best thing to get, because even corn tortillas may use sodium bicarbonate, so you want to be careful. You don't want any leavening agent in your food, and the only way to know is to make it. So if you don't have time to make it, then you should buy corn chips, then read the ingredients. Make sure there's no sodium bicarbonate or any type of leavening agent, no yeast, no baking powder, anything of that nature. You know. But like the brother said, you know, and like the scriptures say, don't be righteous over much. Why shouldest thou? I'm going to get that while I'm crumbling this up with my other hand. You know. Don't be righteous over much. Okay, Ecclesiastes 7:16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Okay, verse 17 also says, be not over much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy time? So, you don't want to be over righteous, you know. You want to do things to the best of your ability. You want to have a good conscience towards the Most High, you know. A humble and meek conscience that the Most High may accept the things that you are trying to do, you know, to the best of your ability, you know. So if it doesn't, as long as it doesn't contain sodium bicarbonate or yeast of any kind, or even baking soda, just to be on the safe side, then you should be fine, you know. So I think I'm about reaching that, you know, that particular consistency that I'm looking for.